Alright, hello. This is a short video to talk about the coaching portfolio. A few of you have asked some questions about this, so I felt like it would be necessary to put a short video together. So first, let's look at the syllabus and see what it has to say here. Obviously, the coaching portfolio, the large portion of your final grade, 100 points for it, and then the coaching portfolio plan that you've already submitted was worth 15 points. It's due no later than Sunday, June the 12th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As I've expressed already, if you haven't began this process, please do so quickly because you're going to need access to another teacher to work with, as well as observing them, observe them having conducting a lesson, and obviously the school year is about over, so you're going to be running out of time. Basically, a few portions of this that'll need to happen: a pre-conference, an observation, and then a post-conference. I'm going to go through a few of those things. And here is the rubric. It's on the syllabus. That's how you're going to be graded. Each portion of the 100 points. The context is worth 100. The instructional goal and topic is worth 10. The planning is worth 10. The implementation and reflection is worth 50, and the data reflection and follow-up is worth 20. That's how you're going to be graded. Once again, that is on the syllabus. I would make sure to include, it doesn't necessarily have to be a part of the video, but I would use some of the examples that we've used from past classes. Just please remember those past classes, the video was a little different, and their expectations for that class were a little different. Maybe with some co-teaching videos or different strategies. This one is on the peer observation, remember. So I guess the reason I shared those examples with everyone was because I wanted to see how, give you good quality examples of how everything was prettied up when it was done in a nice neat bow or package, so to speak. So obviously the two examples are Prezis, but remember the Prezis give you access to the videos. In our case will be the pre-coaching video. And then it also gives you access to documents or different information. And in those documents and information, you definitely need to describe the context, the topic and the goal, planning, and obviously you're going to have a pre-coaching video that talks about the planning, but some of these things that it describes in here need to be the part of the video or part of the document or the document that shows in your Prezi or other form. It doesn't necessarily have to be a Prezi, but another form that is in a nice neat format, the implementation and reflection, and the data reflection and follow-up. So include all those in your final coaching portfolio, all this information in some shape or form. There's no one-size-fit-all, but it needs to be included. Pre-coaching video, the observation, and then the post-observation video. So once again, please make sure and thoroughly look at the syllabus. All right, next thing, as I referred to, I go down to week 7 in Moodle. Like I said, a couple student samples gives you an idea of how to pretty that up at the end. Once again, their assignment in the class when they took this in the past are a little bit different. So the video's expectation for what they should have done isn't going to be exactly as you've been assigned, but you'll be able to see how it was tidied up at the very end. While I'm here, don't forget course evaluation, 5 extra points. So here's where you'll do that, and I believe you will post these right here, final coaching portfolio, upload that. All right, so up here in week 5 is where a lot of the information to help you prepare to do your observation and post-observation different things. The KASC one and the peer observation process are helpful documents. Once again, I'd go to this. This is one of the documents that'll pull up. It'll walk you through each of the things. But the biggest couple things I make sure I wanted to definitely show you were, give me just a second here. All right, so the pre-observation. What I would suggest is these are just examples, but when you turn the video camera on, obviously show you having a short meeting with the teacher that you're about to observe. These are some examples of them. They can be, if you do have them complete them to you ahead of time, I would still recommend that you record the actual pre-observation, but they're just open-ended questions. The goal of the pre-observation is that when you go into the observation, that it is you're not walking in blind. You have some context of what's about to happen in the lesson. What's the lesson objectives? How are you going to teacher Jane or John Doe, how are you going to assess the objective at the end of the lesson so that you know, in fact, that what you taught was in fact learned? Describe the class. Any students with IEPs, I would ask the teacher ahead of time to refrain from using names, but you can talk about any students in there that might have any resource or collab or number of kids in the classroom, behavior problems. Like I said, different ones, examples here, open-ended, but the goal of it is for you, when you walk in, to have a good feeling for what is about to take place in the lesson. That way you're not walking into something blind. Then conduct the actual observation. At that time, what I would recommend would simply be get a sheet of paper out and you simply document the facts of what you see and what you hear. Not what you think you saw, but exactly what you see and hear. A process that I typically do is not uncommon for me to go into a Word document if you have access to a laptop. A lot of times I just simply add in a table, all right, into a Word document. If I can take my computer in there, and on the left side I simply put teacher, right side I put students, and anytime I see the teacher do or say anything that is fact, I can see it or hear it, I type it in there. Teacher went over directions, and I might quote what they were. The student asked question, and put what it was. And obviously, what the teacher follows up with may be your rebuttal. But I simply, you can do that on a T-chart by just simply handwriting it on a sheet of paper. Obviously, this is going to need to be some documentation that you put into your final coaching portfolio, but you put what the teacher says and does on one side, what the students say and do on the other side. It might be something as simple as, while the teacher is teaching, a student in the back just gets up and helps himself to the trash can. Once again, doesn't make it wrong, but you're just simply, you're not giving any passing any judgment right now. This is just the data collection portion of it. So the observation really should entail from you as the student in this class, the documentation of what the teacher says and does and what the students say and do, and then obviously the video that you record of the teacher. So kind of two things. Most people think the observation is the most difficult part. Yeah, it can be time consuming, I don't disagree, but it's not the most difficult. Moving on to the post observation, now that might be the one that some consider the most difficult, and I would probably agree with that. Not that it's necessarily difficult, but it gives you, this is where you're actually going to do a little bit of coaching. All right, so the post observation examples, some open-ended questions and things like that. But in my experience, this is when you don't necessarily need to do all of the talking. This is an example of when you might do a lot of that asking of the questions, and you'll find that the student or the teacher, I'm sorry, that he or she will, they will be more honest than you could ever anticipate. So what I'm doing right now is I'm about to go, obviously I work for Madison County Schools. I'm just going to the teaching framework. I would suggest going to domains 2 and 3, and I would just simply bring up, there's open-ended questions, but I would just talk with the teacher. All right, teacher, creating an environment of respect and rapport, and have this printed out. Where do you find that you failed? Do you feel like, based on the examples and the criteria for these, where do you think you fell in there? Now, obviously, you would have looked at the information ahead of time and had a pretty good idea of where you think they fall. But a lot of times, just simply asking them to reflect on it, most of them will be a little bit more difficult on themselves than maybe even you would be. But the biggest thing is to, if you do all the work for them, remember this is essentially about them. You need to help them realize on their own where they're at. So they go through some different various. You go through these, and they find that they are developing. Well, then the coaching that you can do is spend a little time on, well, what could you have done that would have been accomplished, so that they can know what some of those things are to help them move up a level. All right, so if the teacher you observed fell in the developing one here, once again, it's based on the facts. All right, the framework gives some critical attributes to help you determine if that is in fact where they fell. It also gives some examples. Okay, so basically, pretty much anybody should be able to observe the exact same lesson as you did, and for the most part come to the same exact conclusion. The best case scenario is for the teacher to realize that on their own, and then you either confirm that with the examples that you observed of that, yes, that is where they fell, or you know what, I see where you can think that, but based on a few of these other examples, I felt like you fell in accomplished, or I felt like you fell in ineffective. So the coaching would come from confirming where they were at in the exact specific developing and effective, accomplished, or exemplary. And then number two, maybe it's some small coaching on what could you have done to have gone up a level, or what are some different practices you could do to go up a level the next time. Teachers will be pretty hard on themselves from my experience with this. Remember, teachers are going to want, in my experience, to be over here in the exemplary because that's the best one. Of course, that's natural. Remember, the goal is to be an accomplished. The goal is to be an accomplished. So if they're an accomplished, they're doing good. That's an opportunity to give them some praise. But some of them will be hard on themselves if they're not in the exemplary part. So you should do that for 2A. 2B is establishing a culture for learning. Once again, gives you all the different critical attributes, different characteristics, and some examples. 3 is managing classroom procedures. 4, managing student behavior. 2E, organizing physical space. That concludes domain 2, and then domain 3 is communicating with students. 3B, questioning and discussion techniques. Pretty popular one for peer observations. I'll come to that here in just a moment. 3C, engaging students in learning. 3D, using assessment and instruction. And 3E, demonstrating flexibility and responsiveness. Now, you can do all 10 of them in domains 2 and 3 and go through all that. That's perfectly fine. It's not uncommon to pick out a smaller version after meeting with the teacher ahead of time of, listen, tell me some things that you feel like you need some more feedback and some assistance with, and pick out 2 to 4 of these. That was where I said that a lot of times going to 3B, questioning and discussion techniques, is pretty common in a peer observation. So if you and that teacher decide, instead of doing all 10 of them, to focus on 2 to 4 of them, this is a pretty common one that teachers will want some feedback on, is their questioning techniques. Are they higher order? Are they, is a teacher creating a genuine discussion among students, providing adequate time for students to respond? Is the teacher successfully engaging most of the students in discussion and employing a range of strategies to ensure that most students are heard? There's different things like that. So once again, the pre-observation, to sum this up, pre-observation, opening the questions with the teacher, it helps you see into the mind of the teacher of their purpose for the lesson. That way when you walk into the lesson, you have some context, you know what's going on, things like that. The observation, once again, I recommend a T-chart of some sort, whether it be in a Word document or you simply handwrite them. But you're documenting the facts of what you see and hear from the teacher and what you see and hear from the students. And then lastly, the post-observation is where you're going to sit down with the teacher, with the framework, with the information that you documented. I would have went ahead and done your best to go through each of the different portions of each domain to see where in fact they fell in that specific one ahead of time. You almost preload, pre-plan. But when you go in there, ask the teacher, you know, all right, if you're looking at questioning and discussion techniques, Teacher Jane Doe or Teacher John Doe, where do you think you fell and why? You know, and then give them some good wait time. Let them process that. Have the framework in front of them and in front of you as well. And ask them based on that information, you know, they were obviously in the lesson. Where do you think you fell and why? And have discussions. You remember the post-observation, don't, you're going to feel like you should do all the talking. And it's perfectly okay. And I think good practice that the actual teacher does at least 50% of the talking, if not more, because it is about them. The focus should be on them and their students. You're just guiding and assisting with this and sometimes confirming that, yes, you're correct. You were accomplished on this specific one. I would agree, and here's why. Once again, based on the facts, what you saw and heard. And sometimes you might have to have you know, I politely disagree, and here's why type things. But in the end, it's about the students in that classroom. It's about the teacher's instructions. So there's where, you know, that could be the kind of the conclusion for all this. Feel free to shoot me an email or a phone call, whatever you would like. But please don't hesitate on contacting me, and make sure that you are, you know, quickly as soon as possible beginning this process, because obviously the teachers and students are going to be out of your building soon with summer break. I hope you found this helpful. As always, if I can answer any questions for you, please let me know. Thank you.